Friday, August 7th, 2026. Today's World News Headline Summary. 1. The Korea Times. 1-1. Extreme heat becomes a national crisis in Korea. South Korea is currently confronting a new reality as extreme heat and prolonged droughts have escalated into a severe national crisis. Unrelenting heat waves have devastated agricultural production, significantly driving up the prices of essential vegetables while causing massive livestock and aquaculture losses. Consequently, energy demand has surged to near record levels, exposing critical vulnerabilities in the national power grid. The editorial argues that existing emergency measures, such as cooling shelters, are no longer sufficient to combat these persistent climate anomalies. Emphasizing that treating heat waves as mere seasonal inconveniences is outdated, it urges a fundamental shift toward comprehensive national adaptation strategies. Vocabulary. prolonged. Adjective. 장기화된, 오래 계속되는. The region suffered from a prolonged drought this year. Escalate. Verb. 악화되다, 고조되다. The local conflict quickly escalated into a national crisis. Unrelenting. Adjective. 수그러들지 않는. The unrelenting heat wave caused severe crop damage. Devastate. Verb. 완전히 파괴하다. The hurricane devastated the coastal towns. Aquaculture. Noun. 양식업. Heat stress led to massive losses in local aquaculture. Vulnerability. Noun. 취약성. The blackout exposed the vulnerability of the power grid. Anomaly. Noun. 이변, 이례적인 것. Snow in the middle of summer is a severe weather anomaly. Comprehensive. Adjective. 포괄적인, 종합적인. The government announced a comprehensive safety plan. 시사 용어 해설. Inflationary pressure. 인플레이션 압력. 물가가 지속적으로 오르려는 경제적 힘을 뜻합니다. 본문에서는 폭염으로 농작물 수확량이 줄어들어 식자재 가격이 급등하고 이로 인해 국가 전체 물가가 상승하게 되는 현상을 설명할 때 사용되었습니다.
1/2. No retirement? Why more Koreans work into their 70s? A rapidly growing number of elderly South Koreans are choosing to remain in the workforce well into their 70s due to a combination of heavy financial pressures and a strong desire to stay active. With the steadily rising cost of living and generally inadequate pension benefits, continuing to work has become a necessity rather than a choice for many seniors. Recent job fairs specifically tailored for middle-aged and older workers have been heavily crowded with enthusiastic job seekers. A 62-year-old nurse interviewed stated that she is in no hurry to retire, reflecting a much broader demographic shift nationwide. This profound trend clearly underscores the urgent need for robust social safety nets and age-friendly employment policies. Vocabulary. Workforce. Noun. 노린인구. 노동력. Many seniors remain in the workforce to support their families. Inadequate. Adjective. 불충분한, 부적절한. The pension system is inadequate for covering daily living costs. Necessity. Noun. 필수, 불가피한 일. Having a smartphone has become a necessity today. Tailor. Verb. 요구, 목적등에 맞추다. The job fair was carefully tailored for older workers.
1-3. Cabinet clears bill to strip prosecutors of investigative power. The South Korean cabinet has officially cleared a highly controversial bill aimed at stripping the prosecution of its core investigative powers. This sweeping legislation is designed to completely separate the authority to investigate from the authority to indict, which supporters firmly argue will prevent prosecutors from abusing their concentrated power. The formal passing of this bill marks a significant milestone in the current administration's long-standing push for structural prosecution reform. However, opposition parties and numerous members of the legal community have vehemently criticized the unprecedented move. They assert that rushing such a drastic overhaul could severely cripple the state's capacity to investigate high-level political and corporate corruption. Vocabulary: Cabinet, noun, 내각, 국무회의. The cabinet approved the new budget plan this morning. Strip, verb, 벗기다, 권한을 박탈하다. The new law will strip the agency of its investigative authority. Indict, verb, 기소하다. The grand jury decided to indict the former executive. Milestone, noun, 중요한 단계, 이정표. Passing the test was a major milestone in her academic life. Vehemently, adverb, 격렬하게, 맹렬히. The senator vehemently opposed the sudden tax increase. Unprecedented, adjective, 전례 없는. The pandemic caused an unprecedented economic downturn globally. Overhaul, noun, 철저한 점검, 대대적인 개편. The education system requires a complete structural overhaul. Cripple, verb, 마비시키다, 불구로 만들다. A severe cyber attack could cripple the nation's financial network.
The Korea Herald, 2-1. North Korea launches SRBM into East Sea, JCS. North Korea provocatively fired a short-range ballistic missile, SRBM, into the East Sea on Thursday afternoon, according to reports from South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, JCS. The launch was closely detected from the Wonsan area in Gangwon province, marking a sudden and abrupt resumption of weapons testing by Pyongyang. This significant event represents North Korea's 10th ballistic missile launch of the current year and comes exactly 42 days after their previous test on June 25. The JCS emphasized that the South Korean military has substantially strengthened its surveillance and vigilance in preparation for possible additional provocative launches. Concurrently, South Korea, the United States, and Japan are closely sharing intelligence regarding the projectile while maintaining a full readiness posture. Vocabulary: provocatively, adverb, 도발적으로. The troops acted provocatively near the disputed borderline. Ballistic, adjective, 탄도하게, 탄도 비행을 하는. The country conducted a test of a new ballistic missile. Resumption, noun, 재개, 속행. We highly anticipate the resumption of peace talks next month. Surveillance, noun, 감시. The border is strictly under constant military surveillance. Vigilance, noun, 경계, 조심. The security team was highly praised for its vigilance. Posture, noun, 자세, 태세. The military maintains a strong defensive posture against threats. Abrupt, adjective, 갑작스러운, 퉁명스러운. There was an abrupt and unexpected change in the weather. Projectile, noun, 발사체. The defense radar quickly tracked the incoming projectile. 시사용어 해설. SRBM, Short-Range Ballistic Missile, 단거리 탄도미사일. 사거리가 약 1000km 이하인 탄도미사일을 의미합니다. 대륙간 탄도미사일, ICBM에 비해 사거리는 짧지만 발사 징후를 사전에 포착하기 어려워 인접국에 기습적인 타격을 입힐 수 있는 직접적인 안보 위협입니다. 2-2. Lee orders all-out response as record heat rages, drought deepens. President Lee Jae-myung urgently convened a central disaster management meeting on Thursday, ordering an all-out government response to combat record-breaking heat and a rapidly worsening drought. Acknowledging that lethal temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius have persisted, he instructed all relevant authorities to mobilize every available administrative resource to minimize public harm. Special policy emphasis was placed on safeguarding vulnerable groups, such as elderly people living alone, by conducting mandatory in-person wellness treks. Furthermore, Lee demanded thorough inspections of outdoor workplaces to ensure that mandated rest periods and work suspensions are strictly observed during peak heat hours. He also directed multiple ministries to secure emergency water supplies for isolated communities and proactively mitigate impending damage to livestock and crops. Vocabulary: convene, verb, 소집하다, 모이다. The committee will convene tomorrow to discuss the new budget. All out, adjective, 전면적인, 총력을 기울인. The company successfully launched an all-out marketing campaign. Mobilize, verb,
동원하다. The mayor decided to mobilize the National Guard for the flood. Vulnerable. Adjective. 취약한, 상처받기 쉬운. The elderly are often the most vulnerable during a health crisis. Mandate. Verb. 명령하다, 의무화하다. The law strictly mandates that everyone must wear a seatbelt. Isolated. Adjective. 고립된, 외딴. The rescue team finally reached the isolated mountain village. Mitigate. Verb. 완화하다, 경감시키다. We must take immediate action to mitigate the effects of climate change. Impending. Adjective. 임박한, 다가오는. They quickly prepared for the impending massive hurricane. CDS. Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters. 중앙재난안전대책본부. 대규모 재난이 발생했을 때 국가 차원에서 신속하고 체계적인 대응을 하기 위해 정부가 가동하는 최고의 범정부 재난관리 통제기구입니다.
2/3. HD Construction Equipment doubles renewable power share. HD Construction Equipment announced on Thursday that it has successfully signed renewable power purchase agreements totaling 4 megawatts, thereby more than doubling the renewable share of electricity used at its main Incheon plant. Under these strategic agreements with multiple renewable energy developers, the facility's clean energy share will rise significantly from 19% to 9% by January 2027. This ambitious shift is expected to drastically reduce annual greenhouse gas emissions by 22,155 metric tons, equivalent to planting over 3 million pine trees. The company previously made headlines by becoming the first Korean construction equipment firm to join the global RE100 initiative in 2023. Ultimately, corporate leaders have firmly committed to utilizing entirely renewable electricity across all operations by the year 2040. Vocabulary. Renewable. Adjective. 재생 가능한. Solar and wind are reliable sources of renewable energy. Agreement. Noun. 합의, 협정, 계약. The two nations finally signed a historic trade agreement. Strategic. Adjective. 전략적인. The general planned a strategic retreat to save his troops. Ambitious. Adjective. 야심찬, 어마어마한. The company unveiled an ambitious plan to expand globally. Drastically. Adverb. 극적으로, 과감하게. The new software drastically improved our processing speed. Emission. Noun. 배출, 배출물. Strict laws were passed to reduce harmful carbon emissions. Equivalent. Adjective. 동등한, 맞먹는. A kilometer is roughly equivalent to 62 miles. Commit. Verb. 약속하다, 전념하다. The government committed to reducing the national debt entirely. 시사유무 해설. RE100. Renewable electricity 100%. 기업이 사용하는 전력량의 100%를 2050년까지 풍력, 태양광 등 재생에너지 전력으로 충당하겠다는 자발적인 글로벌 친환경 캠페인입니다. 3. CNN. 3-1. U.S. says Strait of Hormuz is free and open as Besant signals deal with Iran is close to being finalized. The U.S. military announced that the southern route of the highly contested Strait of Hormuz is now free and open for commercial vessels following a prolonged blockade. This positive development emerged directly after U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent indicated that a temporary diplomatic agreement with Iran is remarkably close to being finalized. The diplomatic progress, which was heavily mediated by Oman and Pakistan, has immediately relieved some pressure on global energy markets, causing international crude oil prices to dip. Concurrently, the White House aggressively dismissed media reports suggesting that the U.S. military had exhausted its precision missile stockpiles during recent skirmishes. President Donald Trump insisted that the U.S. possesses more than enough munitions and that domestic defense contractors are producing at record levels. Vocabulary. Contested. Adjective. 논쟁이 되는, 분쟁 중인. The region remains one of the most highly contested areas globally. Prolonged. Adjective. 장기화된. The country suffered severely during the prolonged economic crisis. Finalize. Verb. 마무리 짓다. The executives will finalize the corporate merger next week. Mediate. Verb. 중재하다. A neutral party was hired to mediate the bitter dispute. Relieve. Verb.
덜어주다, 완화하다. This specific medication will quickly relieve your severe headache. Dip. Verb. 하락하다, 살짝 담기다. The overall stock prices dipped slightly before the market closed. Exhaust. Verb. 다 써버리다, 고갈시키다. We have unfortunately exhausted all our financial resources entirely. Stockpile. Noun. 비축량, 재고. The hospital maintains a large stockpile of emergency medical supplies. 시사유머 해설. 호르무즈 해협. 중동의 페르시아만과 오만만을 연결한 좁고 전략적인 바닷길로 전 세계 석유 무역량의 약 20%가 통과하는 글로벌 에너지 수송의 최대 핵심 요충지입니다.
3-2. Washington studying military options to reopen Hormuz Strait. U.S. military officials are actively developing new tactical combat plans to forcefully reopen the Strait of Hormuz if the fragile ceasefire with Iran collapses completely. These advanced military options include the dynamic targeting of specific Iranian maritime capabilities, such as small fast attack crafts, mine-laying vessels, and strategic coastal infrastructure. The Pentagon is also seriously considering precision strikes against key Iranian military commanders who are deemed highly disruptive to maritime security. Despite these aggressive contingency plans, maritime industry experts sternly warn that localized military strikes might not be sufficient to immediately restore safe commercial navigation. Maritime traffic currently remains at a total standstill as both nations impose reciprocal blockades, heavily straining global supply chains. Vocabulary. Tactical. Adjective. 전술적인. The experienced general executed a brilliant tactical maneuver successfully. Fragile. Adjective. 부서지기 쉬운, 취약한. The peace agreement between the two rival factions remains fragile. Dynamic. Adjective. 역동적인, 동적인. The financial market environment is highly dynamic and unpredictable today. Contingency. Noun. 만일의 사태, 비상대책. We absolutely need a solid contingency plan for power outages. Localized. Adjective. 국지적인. The exceptionally heavy rain caused severe localized flooding nearby. Navigation. Noun. 항해, 운항. The powerful storm severely disrupted air and sea navigation yesterday. Reciprocal. Adjective. 상호 간의, 호혜적인. The two neighboring countries signed a beneficial reciprocal trade agreement. Standstill. Noun. 정지, 마비 상태. Traffic came to a complete standstill right after the major accident. 시사유머 해설. Dynamic targeting, 동적 타격. 고정되어 있지 않고 실시간으로 이동하거나 새롭게 나타나는 위협적인 군사 표적, 이동식 미사일 발사 차량, 회속정 등을 발견하는 즉시 추적하여 공격하는 현대 군사 전술을 말합니다. Number 3. 3. An agreement on the Strait of Hormuz is taking shape, but not one Trump wants. An agreement concerning the vital Strait of Hormuz appears to be slowly taking shape, though it heavily diverges from the comprehensive framework preferred by U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump recently expressed profound optimism that a deal could be reached within 48 hours, asserting that substantial diplomatic progress has been made. However, Iran stubbornly insists that it is only negotiating a temporary maritime arrangement bilaterally with Oman, explicitly sidelining Washington from the direct talks. Regional diplomats cautiously suggest there is only a 50-50 chance of a breakthrough, as the current negotiations completely lack input from Iran's hardline Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. Without the IRGC explicitly signing off on the operational details, any diplomatic arrangement remains highly vulnerable to collapse. Vocabulary. Diverge. Verb. 갈라지다, 다르다. Their political opinions began to diverge noticeably over the new policy. Optimism. Noun. 낙관론, 낙천주의. There is a strong sense of optimism about the rapid economic recovery. Stubbornly. Adverb. 완고하게, 고집스럽게. He stubbornly refused to admit that he was entirely wrong. Bilateral. Adjective. 쌍방의, 양자간의. The two nations successfully held bilateral talks to resolve the dispute. Sideline. Verb. 열애로 취급하다, 배제하다. The injured star player was sidelined for the rest of the season. Breakthrough. Noun. 돌파구, 큰 발전.
The scientists have made a major breakthrough in advanced cancer research. Hardline. Adjective. 강경한. 타협하지 않는. The government took a strict hardline stance against the violent protesters. Vulnerable. Adjective. 취약한. 연약한. The ancient stone ruins are highly vulnerable to further weather erosion. 시사용어 해설. IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, 이란 이슬람 혁명 수비대. 이란 정규군과는 별도로 이슬람 혁명 체제 수호와 가치 전파를 위해 창설된 이란 최정예 엘리트 군사 조직입니다. 막강한 정치적, 경제적 권력을 쥐고 있어 국정의 힐세로 불립니다.
4-1. Migrants storm Spanish border in Ceuta. A massive and unprecedented wave of over 70,000 desperate migrants forcefully breached the border of Ceuta, a Spanish enclave in North Africa, plunging the entire region into a humanitarian crisis. Triggered by rapid online rumors and misinformation, crowds attempted to aggressively swim around fortified coastal barriers to reach European territory. Tragically, official reports indicate that over 100 people lost their lives due to drowning or being trampled in the overwhelming human rush. The sudden and massive influx has severely overwhelmed local authorities and reignited fierce political debates across the EU regarding border security and rigid asylum policies. Spanish security forces, cooperating closely with Moroccan authorities, are currently striving to restore order and process immediate migrant returns. Vocabulary. Unprecedented. Adjective. 전례 없는. The pandemic caused a totally unprecedented economic downturn globally. Enclave. Noun. 월경지. 소수민족 거주지. Ceuta is a unique Spanish enclave, completely bordered by Morocco. Breach. Verb. 위반하다. 뚫고 들어가다. Hackers successfully managed to breach the company's tight security system. Fortified. Adjective. 요새화된, 튼튼해진. The old castle is surrounded by heavy and fully fortified walls. Trample. Verb. 짓밟다. Several unfortunate people were trampled in the panicked and fleeing crowd. Influx. Noun. 유입, 쇄도. The coastal city experienced a massive influx of eager tourists this summer. Reignite. Verb. 재점화하다, 다시 불붙이다. The controversial incident quickly reignited tensions between the two communities. Asylum. Noun. 망명, 피난처. The activist fled his native country and sought political asylum in Europe. 시사용어 해설. Enclave. 월경지, 피지. 어떤 국가의 영토 안에 완전히 둘러싸여 있는 타국의 영토를 말합니다. 시우타는 지리적으로 아프리카 대륙의 모로코와 맞닿아 있지만 정치적으로는 스페인 영토이기 때문에 아프리카인들이 유럽으로 진입하려는 미리국 경로로 자주 이용됩니다.
4-2. SpaceX rocket crashes into the moon. A discarded SpaceX Falcon 9 upper stage successfully ended its long, drifting journey by crashing directly into the lunar surface at a blistering speed of 8,700 kilometers per hour. The massive rocket part, which had been aimlessly orbiting since launching a dual lander mission in 2024, impacted near the Einstein crater on the moon's western limb. Scientists mathematically calculate that the explosive kinetic force of the collision gouged out a brand new crater measuring roughly 18 to 30 meters wide. Both NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and South Korea's Danuri spacecraft effectively captured high-resolution images of the initial dust plume and the newly formed impact site. While posing absolutely no danger to Earth, this unintentional crash heavily spotlights the rapidly growing legal and environmental concerns regarding space junk. Vocabulary. Discard. Verb. 버리다, 폐기하다. Please remember to discard your trash in the designated recycling bins. Drifting. Adjective. 표류하는. The small drifting boat was finally rescued by the vigilant Coast Guard. Blistering. Adjective. 맹렬한, 지독히 빠른. The advanced race car sped past the finish line at a blistering pace. Aimlessly. Adverb. 목적 없이. The lost tourist wandered aimlessly through the empty and dark streets. Gouge. Verb. 파내다, 후벼파다. The heavy construction machinery gouged a very deep trench in the ground. High resolution. Adjective. 고해상도에. The weather satellite sent back incredibly high-resolution images of the storm. Unintentional. Adjective. 의도치 않은. It was an unintentional mistake, but it caused a significant amount of trouble. Spotlight. Verb. 집중 조명하다. The acclaimed documentary spotlights the critical issue of child poverty worldwide. 시사용어 해설. Space junk, space debris, 우주 쓰레기. 수명이 다한 인공위성, 발사 후 버려진 로켓에 분리된 파편 등 지구 우주 궤도를 떠돌아다니는 인간이 만든 폐기물을 뜻합니다. 작동 중인 인공위성이나 우주정거장과 충돌할 위험이 있어 우주 개발에 심각한 문제로 대두되고 있습니다.
4-3. Prison drug spice vaped by children. A highly alarming trend has emerged among teenagers who are unknowingly vaping spice, a dangerous synthetic drug typically associated with prison populations. Many children mistakenly believe they are consuming standard cannabis, completely unaware that they are ingesting a far more potent and chemically unpredictable substance. Medical experts strongly warn that vaping spice can lead to acute health outcomes, including severe psychotic episodes and sudden cardiac arrest. Recent reports and heartbreaking BBC broadcasts have shown the drug turning young users into a zombie-like state on the streets. Consequently, health authorities are urgently calling on parents and teachers to closely monitor children's vaping habits and educate them on the hidden, fatal risks. Vocabulary. Alarming. Adjective. 걱정스러운, 두려운. There has been an alarming increase in the local juvenile crime rate. Synthetic. Adjective. 합성해, 인조해. The new jacket is made entirely from durable synthetic materials. Unknowingly. Adverb. 자신도 모르게 무심코. She unknowingly downloaded a vicious computer virus from the malicious email. Potent. Adjective. 강력한, 효능이 센. This medication is highly potent and should be used with extreme caution. Acute. Adjective. 급성의, 극심한. The patient was immediately rushed to the ER with severe acute abdominal pain. Psychotic. Adjective. 정신병에 미친. The powerful drug induced a terrifying psychotic episode in the young user. Cardiac arrest. Noun. 심정지. The sudden shock caused the elderly man to suffer a fatal cardiac arrest. Monitor. Verb. 감시하다, 관찰하다. The doctors will carefully monitor the patient's vital signs overnight. 시사용어 해설. Synthetic drug. 합성마약. 자연 상태의 식물, 양귀비, 대마에서 추출하는 것이 아니라 화학적 합성을 통해 실험실에서 인공적으로 만들어낸 마약을 말합니다. 성분을 변형하기 쉬워 환각작용이 훨씬 강하고 부작용 예측이 어려워 매우 치명적입니다. 5. ABC Australia 5-1. Olympian calls for Boxing Australia investigation at racism inquiry. Marissa Williamson Pullman, the first Indigenous female boxer to represent Australia at the Olympics, has publicly called for an independent investigation into Boxing Australia. Testifying before a special Senate inquiry on racism, she detailed harrowing personal experiences of widespread abuse, bullying, and systemic discrimination within the national sporting body. She passionately argued that the organization chronically fails to support vulnerable Indigenous athletes and has actively attempted to ruin her career for bravely speaking out. Although Boxing Australia vehemently denies these severe allegations, the organization has recently faced major administrative turmoil, including the unexpected resignation of its chief executive. Pullman firmly insisted that the whole board needs to go, strongly highlighting a deeply rooted toxic culture in community sports. Vocabulary. Indigenous. Adjective. 원주민의. 토착해. The museum beautifully exhibits artifacts from ancient indigenous cultures. Testify. Verb. 증언하다. The key witness agreed to testify in the federal court tomorrow. Harrowing. Adjective. 끔찍한, 참혹한. The crash survivors shared their harrowing experiences with the reporters. Systemic. Adjective. 구조적인, 전체에 영향을 미치는. The detailed report revealed systemic failures within the national healthcare system. Chronically. Adverb. 만성적으로. The local public hospital is chronically underfunded and severely understaffed. Vehemently. Adverb. 강력하게, 격렬히.
5-2. 82-year-old grandfather and grandson cycle 5,300 kilometers for MND. An 82-year-old Australian grandfather and his 18-year-old grandson have incredibly completed a grueling 5,300-kilometer cycling journey across the vast Australian continent. Their monumental physical challenge was undertaken to raise critical funds and public awareness for motor neuron disease, MND. Battling through unforgiving desert heat and fierce headwinds, the determined duo persevered with remarkable resilience to highlight the devastating effects of the illness. The primary motivation behind their epic ride was deeply personal, as the debilitating condition had recently and profoundly affected their own family. Through their deeply inspiring effort, they successfully raised over $65,000 to directly support MND research and provide care for patients in need. Vocabulary. grueling. Adjective. 녹초로 만드는, 대단히 힘든. The soldiers completed a grueling 3-day training exercise in the mountains. Monumental. Adjective. 엄청난, 기념비적인. The scientists achieved a monumental discovery that changed history. Unforgiving. Adjective. 용서 없는, 가혹한. The unforgiving desert climate makes survival extremely difficult without water. Fierce. Adjective. 사나운, 거센. A fierce storm approached the coast, threatening the small village entirely. Persevere. Verb. 인내하며 계속하다. Despite the many challenges, she persevered and finally graduated with honors. Resilience. Noun. 회복력, 탄력. The community showed remarkable resilience after the devastating earthquake hit. Debilitating. Adjective. 쇠약하게 하는. He is suffering from a very debilitating disease that limits his movement. Profoundly. Adverb. 깊이, 심원하게. The sudden loss of her father profoundly affected her outlook on life. 시사용어 해설. Awareness campaign. 인식 제고 캠페인. 특정 사회적 문제나 질병, 예, 루게릭병, 환경보호 등에 대해 대중들이 더 잘 알 수 있도록 정보를 제공하고 관심을 촉구하는 홍보 활동을 의미합니다. 5-3. Renewable energy is Australia's off-ramp from global fuel shocks. Australia's exceptionally heavy reliance on imported fossil fuels has dramatically increased its economic exposure to geopolitical risks and volatile global energy markets. With domestic oil production continuously dwindling and maintaining the absolute smallest petroleum stockpiles among IEA members, the nation remains precariously vulnerable to sudden supply disruptions in the Middle East. The ongoing conflict involving the Strait of Hormuz has sent significant shockwaves through Australia's key economic sectors, directly triggering higher inflation and increased transport costs. Top energy analysts strongly emphasize that the only viable solution to permanently insulate the economy from these unpredictable oil shocks is drastically accelerating the transition to renewable energy. Embracing solar, wind, and heat pump technologies serves as the ultimate off-ramp to achieve true long-term energy independence. Vocabulary. Reliance. Noun. 의존, 의지. The company's heavy reliance on one specific supplier is incredibly risky. Volatile. Adjective. 변동성이 큰, 불안정한. The global stock market has been highly volatile throughout this week. Dwindle. Verb.
줄어들다, 점차 감소하다. His bank account balance dwindled quickly as he spent money freely. Precariously. Adverb. 위태롭게, 불안정하게. The glass vase balanced precariously right on the edge of the table. Disruption. Noun. 붕괴, 중단, 차질. The massive strike caused major disruptions to the daily train service. Trigger. Verb. 촉발하다, 유발하다. The unexpected court decision triggered massive protests nationwide immediately. Viable. Adjective. 실행 가능한, 실용적인. We desperately need to find a financially viable solution to the problem. Insulate. Verb. 보호하다, 격리하다. A good savings account can definitely insulate you from sudden job loss. EIEA. 국제에너지기구. 1970년대 석유 파동 이후 선진국들이 에너지 안보를 위해 만든 국제기구로 회원국은 비상시를 대비해 최소 91분의 원유를 비축해야 할 의무가 있습니다. 호주가 이 비축량이 가장 적어 비판을 받고 있다는 내용입니다.
CGTN 6-1. Japan marks 81st A-bomb anniversary amid debate over nuclear policies. Japan solemnly marked the 81st anniversary of the devastating U.S. atomic bombing in Hiroshima amid a rapidly growing domestic debate concerning the nation's future nuclear policies. During the annual Peace Memorial Ceremony, Mayor Kazumi Matsui passionately urged global leaders to abandon dangerous theories of nuclear deterrence and work towards the complete abolition of all nuclear weapons. However, Prime Minister Sane Takaichi's speech drew intense public scrutiny as she provided a highly equivocal response regarding Japan's long-standing three non-nuclear principles. By intentionally avoiding a firm commitment to maintaining the policy of not possessing, producing, or permitting nuclear weapons on Japanese soil, her remarks fueled deep concerns among opposition parties. Critics robustly argue that this calculated ambiguity paves the way for revising security documents and signals a dangerous rightward shift towards remilitarization. Vocabulary. Solemnly, adverb, 엄숙하게. The vast crowd stood solemnly as the national anthem played loudly. Abolition, noun, peiji. The human rights activists fought tirelessly for the abolition of slavery. Scrutiny, noun, 정밀조사, 철저한 검토. The government's new budget plan is currently under close public scrutiny. Equivocal, adjective, 모호한, 애매한. His official answer was so equivocal that no one knew his true stance. Commitment, noun, 약속, 헌신. The global company made a firm commitment to significantly reduce carbon emissions. Ambiguity, noun, 모호함, 불명확성. The intentional ambiguity of the contract eventually led to complex legal disputes. Remilitarization, noun, 재무장. The neighboring countries were highly alarmed by its rapid remilitarization efforts. Pave the way, idiom, 길을 열다, 기반을 마련하다. His groundbreaking research paved the way for modern medical advancements. 시사용어 해설. Three non-nuclear principles. 비핵 3원칙. 일본이 1971년 국회에서 결의한 평화주의 국가 원칙으로 핵무기를 만들지 않고 not produce, 가지지 않으며 not possess, 반입하지 않는다 not permit introduction 라는 세 가지 핵심 맹세를 의미합니다. 6-2. As Hiroshima remembers peace, Japan moves towards remilitarization. An opinion piece published by CGTN sharply criticizes the glaring contradiction between Japan's commemoration of the Hiroshima atomic bombing and the current government's undeniable shift toward remilitarization. The author notes that while the Japanese public firmly opposes nuclear sharing and retains strong anti-war sentiments, the Takaichi administration is systematically dismantling post-war constitutional constraints. The recently released Defense White Paper extends this confrontational logic beyond the military sphere, mobilizing Japan's comprehensive national power in economic and technological fields to aggressively counter China. This multifaceted approach risks turning bilateral relations into a society-wide strategic rivalry, rather than managing differences through peaceful dialogue. Ultimately, the article warns that Japan's rising neo-militarism directly challenges the established international order and severely threatens stability across the Asia-Pacific region. Vocabulary.
Contradiction. Noun. 모순, 반박. There was a glaring contradiction between his words and his actual actions. Systematically. Adverb. 체계적으로, 조직적으로. The organization systematically analyzed the newly collected data over several months. Dismantle. Verb. 분해하다, 체제를 허물다. The mechanic carefully dismantled the car engine to find the actual problem. Confrontational. Adjective. 대립적인, 대결하는. His extremely confrontational attitude made the difficult negotiation even worse. Mobilize. Verb. 동원하다. The smart general decided to mobilize the reserves for the upcoming battle. Multifaceted. Adjective. 다면적인, 다각적인. The committee presented a multifaceted approach to comprehensively solve the crisis. Rivalry. Noun. 경쟁, 대립. The intense rivalry between the two top companies drove massive technological innovation. Neo-militarism. Noun. 신군국주의. Scholars heavily debated the potential rise of neo-militarism in the modern era. 시사 용어 해설. Neo-militarism. 신군국주의. 과거 제국주의 시절의 노골적인 군사 침략과 달리 현대 국가가 국가 안보와 경제적 이익 보호를 명분으로 군사력을 증강하고 외교적 갈등을 군사적 긴장으로 몰아가는 정치적 성향을 비판적으로 이르는 말입니다.
6-3. 128. Local assemblies urge Takaichi to uphold non-nuclear principles. A record-breaking 128 local assemblies across 36 prefectures in Japan have formally submitted written opinions strongly urging the government to strictly uphold the 3 non-nuclear principles. This massive grassroots push comes amid mounting public anxiety that Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's administration plans to unilaterally revise key national security documents by the end of the year. Controversial reports suggesting the government might reconsider the core principle prohibiting the introduction of nuclear weapons into Japanese territory have sparked widespread societal outrage. Prefectural assemblies in historically affected areas like Hiroshima and Nagasaki unanimously adopted official statements demanding absolute adherence to this pacifist cornerstone. Political experts note that local citizens view these principles as central to Japan's post-war identity and firmly reject any political drift toward nuclear sharing. Assembly. Noun. 의회, 집회. The local assembly finally voted to heavily increase funding for public schools. Uphold. Verb. 유지시키다, 지키다. The newly appointed judge firmly promised to uphold the national constitution. Grassroots. Noun. 풀뿌리. 민중, 일반 대중. The election campaign was heavily supported by dedicated grassroots organizers. Anxiety. Noun. 불안, 염려. There is growing and palpable anxiety about the upcoming global economic recession. Unilaterally. Adverb. 일방적으로. The company unilaterally decided to completely change the established work schedule. Unanimously. Adverb. 만장일치로. The governing committee unanimously agreed on the highly controversial new proposal. Adherence. Noun. 고수, 집착, 준수. Strict adherence to the safety rules is absolutely required in the chemical lab. Pacifist. Adjective / noun. 평화주의에, 평화주의자. The strong pacifist movement passionately opposed the sudden deployment of combat troops. 파이적 시사용어 해설기. 핵공유. 핵무기를 스스로 보유하지 않은 국가. 예를 들어 일본, 독일 등이 미국과 같은 핵 보유국의 핵무기를 자기 영토에 배치하고 전쟁 시 이를 공동으로 운용할 수 있도록 하는 북대서양 조약기구, 나토식의 전략적 안보 개념입니다. 일본 내에서는 이를 헌법 위반으로 보는 시각이 우세합니다. Number 7. NHK World Japan. Number 7. 1. Kumamoto earthquake survivors could be displaced for months. More than a week after a powerful earthquake severely struck Japan's southern Kumamoto region, thousands of residents still remain stranded in crowded emergency shelters. Continuous and entirely unpredictable aftershocks, combined with massive structural damage to residential areas and critical infrastructure, have made immediate returns absolutely impossible for many local families. Local authorities and professional disaster response teams warn that these highly traumatized survivors could be displaced for several months before their home communities are fully stabilized. In direct response, the government has rapidly accelerated plans to construct prefabricated temporary housing units to ease the overwhelming burden on communal shelters. Officials are also prioritizing vital medical aid and psychological support, recognizing the immense toll this prolonged displacement takes on the vulnerable populations. Vocabulary. Strand. Verb. 오로 가도 못하게 하다. 발을 묶다. The unexpectedly heavy snowfall stranded hundreds of passengers at the airport. Shelter. Noun. 대피소. 피난처. The homeless people found warmth in a city shelter during the harsh winter. Unpredictable. Adjective. 예측할 수 없는. The volatile stock market is extremely unpredictable this challenging year. Aftershock. Noun. 여진. A surprisingly strong aftershock shook the city just hours after the main earthquake. Displace. Verb. 살 곳을 잃게 하다. 쫓아내다. The massive summer flood entirely displaced thousands of rural farming families. Accelerate. Verb. 가속화하다. The government plans to actively accelerate the strict timeline for the project. Communal. Adjective. 공동의. The students share a large communal kitchen in the modern dormitory building. Toll. Noun. 타격, 피해, 사상자 수. The long and bitter war took a remarkably heavy toll on the country's economy. 시사용어 해설. Displacement. 이주, 강제 대피. 전쟁이나 지진, 호수 같은 자연재해 등으로 인해 사람들이 원래 살던 집과 고향을 어쩔 수 없이 떠나 다른 곳으로 피난을 가야 하는 상황을 말합니다. 난민이나 이재민의 발생을 의미하는 중요한 사회 용어입니다.
7-2. Hiroshima Report 2026 focuses on nuclear disarmament challenges. The highly anticipated Hiroshima Report 2026, supported by the Hiroshima prefectural government, has been officially released, offering a sharp evaluation of global nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation efforts. The comprehensive report critically points out that the global nuclear disarmament process has severely stagnated or even regressed due to escalating geopolitical tensions among major world powers. It meticulously documents the troubling developments within nuclear-armed states, constantly modernizing their arsenals rather than reducing them. Specifically, it highlights controversial off-the-record remarks by senior Japanese officials suggesting the possible possession of nuclear weapons, which directly contradicts national policies. Ultimately, the report strongly urges the international community to refocus its collective political will on the fundamental goal of a world totally free of nuclear weapons. Vocabulary. Disarmament. Noun. 군축. 무장해제. The two nations successfully signed a historic nuclear disarmament treaty today. Non-proliferation. Noun. 비확산. The Global Committee strictly enforces nuclear non-proliferation laws worldwide. Stagnate. Verb. 침체되다. 정체되다. The local economy began to heavily stagnate due to a severe lack of investment. Regress. Verb. 퇴보하다. 물러서다. The patient's health unfortunately began to regress despite the new treatment. Meticulously. Adverb. 꼼꼼하게. 세심하게. The diligent researcher meticulously checked all the complex data entries twice. Arsenal. Noun. 무기고. 무기. The rogue country has steadily built a large and threatening nuclear arsenal. Contradict. Verb. 모순되다. 반박하다. His recent actions directly contradict his earlier public statements entirely. Collective. Adjective. 집단적인. 공동의. Protecting the fragile environment requires a massive collective effort from everyone. 시사용어 해설. Non-proliferation. 비확산. 기존의 핵무기를 가진 국가 외에 다른 나라들이 핵무기를 새로 만들거나 보유하지 못하게 막는 국제적 정책과 조약을 뜻합니다. NPT, 핵확산 금지 조약가 가장 대표적입니다.
7-3. Professor Han-Soo Lee's research featured on NHK World Japan. The innovative research conducted by Professor Han-Soo Lee from the Graduate School of Innovation and Practice for Smart Society at Hiroshima University has been prominently featured on NHK World Japan. His cutting-edge study focuses heavily on developing smart infrastructure technologies capable of accurately predicting extreme weather events driven by climate change, and actively minimizing disaster damage. The prestigious international broadcast highlighted how local academic institutions and communities are practically utilizing advanced technologies to build resilient, real-world disaster response systems. Viewers and academic peers alike responded highly positively to the practical applications of his extensive data models. This global media exposure significantly underscores the critical importance of integrating modern smart technologies into urban planning to combat environmental threats effectively. Vocabulary. Prominently. Adverb. 두드러지게, 현저히. The artist's new painting was prominently displayed in the main gallery room. Cutting edge. Adjective. 최첨단의. The startup company is developing highly cutting-edge medical technologies globally. Infrastructure. Noun. 기반시설, infra. The government is heavily investing in repairing the city's aging infrastructure. Predict. Verb. 예측하다. The expert meteorologist accurately predicted the exact path of the massive storm. Resilient. Adjective. 회복력 있는, 탄력 있는. The resilient local community quickly, completely rebuilt the town after the terrible flood. Peer. Noun. 동료, 또래. His scientific work is highly respected by his academic peers around the world. Exposure. Noun. 노출, 매스컴에 다루어짐. The young actor gained massive media exposure after starring in the hit movie. Integrate. Verb. 통합하다. We must properly integrate these new bright ideas into our existing business plan. 시사용어 해설. Smart infrastructure. 스마트 인프라. 도로나 다리, 전력망 같은 전통적인 기반 시설에 사물 인터넷, IoT, 인공지능, AI, 빅데이터 등의 첨단 정보통신 기술을 결합하여 시설을 더 안전하고 효율적으로 관리하는 시스템을 뜻합니다.
8. Al Jazeera. 8-1. Houthi attacks on Yemeni government forces kill at least 30. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels launched highly coordinated and devastating surprise attacks against government military camps in the central and eastern provinces of Marib and Hadramaut. The brutal assaults tragically killed at least 30 government troops and severely wounded more than 50 others, marking a major and alarming escalation in violence. This particular incident is widely considered the deadliest military engagement between the warring factions since a fragile truce temporarily halted major fighting back in 2022. The back-to-back deadly attacks directly followed separate Houthi drone strikes that injured several civilians across the border in southern Saudi Arabia. These rapidly escalating and bloody hostilities have completely shattered hopes for lasting peace, reigniting profound fears of a prolonged civil war. Vocabulary. Rebel. Noun. 반군, 반역자. The armed rebels quickly seized complete control of the capital city by morning. Coordinated. Adjective. 조직화된, 협동해. They successfully launched a highly coordinated and effective marketing campaign.
Brutal. Adjective. 잔혹한, 무자비한. The old regime was widely known for its brutal treatment of political prisoners. Engagement. Noun. 교전. 약속. The brief but intense military engagement resulted in surprisingly few casualties. Faction. Noun. 파벌. 당파. The large political party eventually split into two rival factions over the issue. Back-to-back. Adjective. 연이은. 등을 맞댄. The brilliant team won two highly impressive back-to-back championships this season. Hostility. Noun. 적대감. 적대행위. The new treaty was eagerly signed to finally end the hostilities between the nations. Shatter. Verb. 산산조각내다. 파괴하다. The unexpected defeat completely shattered their dreams of reaching the grand finals.
시사용어 해설. truce, 휴전. 전쟁을 치르고 있는 국가나 세력이 정치적 합의를 통해 일시적으로 전투 행위를 중단하기로 맺는 협약입니다. 평화협정, peace treaty가 맺어지기 전까지는 법적으로 전쟁 상태가 유지됩니다.
Number 8. 2. War on Iran. US-Iran deal edges closer. Amid the ongoing and highly tense standoff between the United States and Iran over vital maritime trade routes, significant diplomatic optimism has unexpectedly emerged. Reports indicate that a temporary deal regarding the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz could be signed within 48 hours, signaling a major breakthrough. Under the active mediation of the Omani government, negotiators have reportedly agreed on the exact geographical coordinates for a single two-way shipping corridor. While the Iranian Foreign Ministry has confirmed the drafting of a joint statement, they appended a strict caveat against third-party interference. Furthermore, Tehran firmly stated that mere agreements do not guarantee total security unless Washington fully lifts its harsh naval blockades and ceases aggressive actions. Vocabulary. Standoff. Noun. 교착 상태. 대치. The tense armed standoff between the police and the robbers lasted for hours. Optimism. Noun. 낙관론. There is growing optimism regarding the successful outcome of the peace talks. Mediation. Noun. 중재. 조정. The complex labor dispute was finally settled through formal court mediation. Coordinate. Noun. Verb. 좌표. 조정하다. The clever pilot carefully entered the exact coordinates into the plane system. Corridor. Noun. 회랑. 통로. The two countries agreed to create a safe humanitarian corridor for refugees. Caveat. Noun. 경고. 단서조항. She gladly accepted the job offer, but with one major caveat regarding her hours. Interference. Noun. 간섭. 방해. The sovereign government completely rejected any foreign interference in its election. Cease. Verb. 중단하다. 멈추다. The commander ordered the troops to immediately cease firing at the enemy. 시사용어 해설. Naval blockade. 해상 봉쇄. 적국의 항구나 해안을 군함을 동원해 둘러싸고 외부로부터의 무기나 식량 등 모든 물자의 수출입을 강제로 차단하는 적대적인 군사 조치입니다.
8-3. The yearly mild weather spell that brings Yemen's coast back to life. In stark contrast to the devastating war and scorching heat, the southern Yemeni coastal city of Mukalla is currently celebrating its unique annual weather spell known as al-Balda. During this remarkable natural phenomenon, cold ocean currents flow in, significantly dropping local temperatures and bringing the usually sweltering coast back to vibrant life. Thousands of relieved residents and excited domestic tourists gather to enjoy beach festivals, traditional flatbreads, and refreshing swims in the remarkably chilled waters. This rare period of mild weather provides a much-needed psychological escape from the ongoing brutal conflict and widespread humanitarian hardships. Furthermore, the massive influx of enthusiastic beachgoers offers a rare and highly valuable economic boost to struggling local merchants and businesses. Vocabulary. Scorching. Adjective. 모든 것을 태울 듯이 더움. The workers were exhausted by the scorching summer heat in the desert. Phenomenon. Noun. 현상. 경이로운 것. The dazzling northern lights are a truly beautiful and rare natural phenomenon. Current. Noun. 해류. 기류. 흐름. The strong ocean current pulled the small boat far away from the safe shore. Sweltering. Adjective. 치는 듯이 더운. We stayed inside the air-conditioned room to escape the sweltering heat. Vibrant. Adjective. 활기찬, 생기가 넘치는. The culturally diverse city is famous for its highly vibrant nightlife and music. Psychological. Adjective. 심리적인. The brutal war had a deep psychological impact on all the young children. Hardship. Noun. 어려움, 고난. The poor family endured immense financial hardship during the long winter. Merchant. Noun. 상인, 무역상. The local merchant carefully displayed his fresh fruits at the busy morning market. Economic boost. 경제적 활력, 부양. 침체되어 있던 지역 상권이나 국가 경제에 특정 행사, 축제 또는 정책 자금이 유입되면서 매출이 증가하고 일자리가 늘어나는 등 경제 상황이 좋아지는 현상을 말합니다.
CBC, Canada, 9-1. Trump targets birthright citizenship with newly signed executive orders. U.S. President Donald Trump has aggressively renewed his campaign to restrict immigration by officially signing 2 new executive orders aimed at selectively curtailing birthright citizenship. Following a recent Supreme Court rejection of a broader attempt, this narrower and more targeted directive specifically aims to end the controversial practice of birth tourism. White House officials sternly stated that obtaining a U.S. visa for the sole fraudulent purpose of having a child on American soil is now strictly banned worldwide. The administration confidently argues that these modified orders do not violate the limits previously set by the Supreme Court ruling. However, immigration advocates are already bracing for another fierce legal battle, arguing the move fundamentally undermines the constitutional 14th Amendment. Vocabulary: curtail, verb, 축소하다, 삭감하다. The manager had to strictly curtail overall spending to balance the budget. Directive, noun, 지시, 지침. The CEO issued a strict new directive regarding remote work schedules today. Explicitly, adverb, 명시적으로, 분명하게. The manual explicitly states that the electronic device must always stay dry. Fraudulent, adjective, 사기에, 속이는. The bank quickly blocked his card after detecting highly fraudulent activity online. Constitutional, adjective, 헌법에, 합헌적인. Freedom of speech is considered a fundamental constitutional right in a democracy. Amendment, noun, 개정, 수정안, 헌법. The First Amendment strongly protects freedom of religion and public expression. Brace for, idiom, 에 대비하다. The small coastal town is busily bracing for the incoming destructive hurricane. Undermine, verb, 약화시키다, 훼손하다. Constant harsh criticism can severely undermine a young person's confidence completely. 시사용어 해설, executive order, 행정명령. 미국 대통령이 연방의회의 복잡한 입법 과정을 거치지 않고 행정부 하부기관에 직접적으로 내리는 지시사항입니다. 신속한 정책 집행이 가능하지만 위헌 소지가 있을 시 법원에 의해 제동이 걸릴 수 있습니다. Birthright citizenship, 출생신인권. 부모의 체류 신분이나 국적에 상관없이 미국의 영토 안에서 태어난 아이에게 무조건적으로 미국 시민권을 부여하는 헌법적 권리, 속지주의를 뜻합니다. 9-2. Man accused of starting Spokane wildfire looked up best weather to ignite blaze. A 37-year-old man formerly charged with starting one of the devastating wildfires in Spokane, Washington, meticulously planned his crime for weeks. Police investigations revealed that the accused arsonist specifically researched weather conditions online to determine the absolute optimal time to ignite the massive blaze. The resulting Old Trails fire is one of 3 major regional fires that tragically destroyed over 850 homes and forced the desperate evacuation of tens of thousands. During interviews, the suspect disturbingly expressed to detectives that fire is powerful, beautiful, exhibiting a dangerous psychological obsession with destruction. Consequently, a Superior Court judge ruled him a significant community risk and set his bail at a staggering $2 million. Vocabulary: meticulously, adverb, 꼼꼼하게, 치밀하게. The brilliant architect meticulously planned every single detail of the new bridge. Arsonist, noun, 방화범. The police finally caught the serial arsonist who burned down the old barn. Optimal, adjective, 최적의, 최상의. We are waiting for the optimal weather conditions before launching the rocket. Ignite, verb, 불을 붙이다, 점화하다. A tiny spark from the wire was enough to ignite the highly dry grass. Evacuation, noun, 대피, 피난. The city ordered a mandatory evacuation of all residents before the storm hit. Disturbingly, adverb, 충격적으로, 불안하게. The whole movie was disturbingly realistic and scared many viewers completely. Obsession, noun, 강박관념, 집착. His unhealthy obsession with winning at all costs ruined his personal relationships. Staggering, adjective, 충격적인, 엄청난.
The repair project will cost the city a staggering amount of taxpayer money. 시사 용어 해설. 베일, 보석금. 구속된 피의자가 재판이 열리기 전까지 감옥에서 풀려나기 위해 법원에 맡기는 일종의 보증금입니다. 범죄의 질이 매우 나쁘거나 도망칠 우려가 클수록 판사는 보석금을 아주 높게 책정하여 사실상 속방을 불허합니다.
9-3. Canada midfielder Ali Ahmed to undergo surgery after tearing ACL. Canada's national team midfielder Ali Ahmed is set to miss an extended period of play after tragically suffering a ruptured anterior cruciate ligament, ACL, in his right knee. The 25-year-old athlete sustained the severe injury after landing awkwardly during the second half of Norwich City's preseason friendly match against Spain's CA Osasuna. Subsequent medical scans quickly confirmed the worst, and his English club officially announced on Thursday that he is scheduled to undergo corrective surgery. The Toronto native previously played a highly pivotal role in propelling Canada's remarkable run to the round of 16 at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. As a heartwarming show of support, his teammate Mohamed Touré will wear Ahmed's number 21 shirt during the upcoming season while the Canadian recovers. Vocabulary. Extended. Adjective. 연장된, 장기간의. The sick employee required an extended period of absolute rest to recover fully. Rupture. Noun, verb. 파열, 파열되다. The violent impact caused a sudden rupture in the underground water pipe. Ligament. Noun, 인대. A torn ligament in her ankle prevented her from dancing for several months. Sustain. Verb. 피해, 부상을 입다. The brave soldier sustained severe injuries while bravely fighting on the battlefield. Awkwardly. Adverb. 어색하게, 서투르게. The tall teenager stumbled awkwardly over the small step in front of everyone. Subsequent. Adjective. 그 다음에, 차후에. The initial test failed, but the subsequent trials were all highly successful. Pivotal. Adjective. 중추적인, 핵심적인. Education plays a strictly pivotal role in shaping a child's successful future. Propel. Verb. 나아가게 하다, 이끌다. Her intense passion for science completely propelled her to a brilliant career. 시사 영어 해설. Preseason friendly. 정규 리그나 대회가 공식적으로 시작되기 전에 선수들의 체력과 전술을 점검하고 팀의 호흡을 맞추기 위해 타 구단과 승패에 큰 부담 없이 치르는 연습 경기를 의미합니다.
10. DD India. 10-1. India successfully test fires Agni-4 medium-range ballistic missile. India has achieved another major milestone in its strategic defense capabilities by successfully test firing the Agni-4 medium-range ballistic missile, MRBM, from the coast of Odisha. Propelled by a reliable solid-fuel rocket motor, this highly advanced missile is capable of accurately striking designated targets at a massive distance of up to 4,000 kilometers. The Ministry of Defense confirmed that the launch, conducted under the aegis of the Strategic Forces Command, flawlessly validated all operational and technical parameters. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh publicly praised the flawless operation as a textbook mission, underscoring the undeniable success of India's indigenous missile development program. This critical test significantly strengthens India's nuclear deterrence posture and clearly showcases its ongoing commitment to utilizing state-of-the-art military technologies. Vocabulary. Propel. Verb. 추진하다, 나아가게 하다. A strong gust of wind powerfully propelled the small sailboat forward quickly. Accurately. Adverb. 정확하게. The skilled archer accurately hit the absolute center of the moving target. Flawlessly. Adverb. 흠잡을 데 없이, 완벽하게. She bravely performed the difficult piano sonata flawlessly in front of the crowd. Operational. Adjective. 작전상에, 가동되는. The new hospital wing will be fully operational and ready by next month. Parameter. Noun. 매개 변수, 한도. The scientists set strict parameters for their complex social experiment. Indigenous. Adjective. 토착의, 국산의, 자체 개발한. The national military completely shifted towards using indigenous defense technologies. Deterrence. Noun. 억제력, 제지. Nuclear weapons are often strongly viewed as a primary form of military deterrence. State of the art. Adjective. 최첨단의. The modern laboratory is heavily equipped with state-of-the-art scientific instruments. 시사 용어 해설. Nuclear deterrence. 핵 억제력. 적국이 함부로 군사적 도발을 하지 못하도록 아군 역시 적국의 영토에 괴멸적인 타격을 가할 수 있는 핵무기, 탄도미사일 등을 충분히 보유하고 있음을 보여주어 적의 공격 의지를 사전에 꺾어버리는 군사 안보 전략입니다.
Number 10. 2. Territorial Army's contribution significant in advancing government's vision of Viksit Bharat. Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh strongly highlighted the highly significant contribution of the Territorial Army in advancing the government's ambitious vision of Viksit Bharat, developed India. During a high-level parliamentary meeting, he described the force as the living embodiment of the citizen-soldier concept, seamlessly blending civilian pursuits with military duty. The Territorial Army actively builds a highly trained reserve of soldiers ready for immediate deployment to safeguard borders and maintain internal security. Beyond traditional defense roles, these units serve as critical first responders during severe natural calamities, providing essential medical aid and rescue support. Singh also warmly commended their remarkable ecological task forces, which deeply contribute to environmental management and climate change mitigation nationwide. Vocabulary. Significant. Adjective. 중요한 의미 있는. The new policy will have a significant and positive impact on public education. Embodiment. Noun. 화신, 전형, 구체화. The brave firefighter is the true embodiment of selfless courage and duty. Seamlessly. Adverb. 매끄럽게, 이음새 없이. The advanced software seamlessly integrates with all existing operating systems. Deployment. Noun. 전개, 배치. The sudden deployment of combat troops to the border raised international alarms. Safeguard. Verb. 보호하다, 지키다. New strict laws were passed to properly safeguard consumers from online fraud. Calamity. Noun. 재앙, 재난. The devastating earthquake was the worst natural calamity in the nation's history. Commend. Verb. 칭찬하다, 추천하다. The mayor personally commended the volunteers for their hard work and dedication. Ecological. Adjective. 생태하게, 환경에. The massive oil spill caused an ecological disaster that ruined the local coastline. 시사용어 해설. Viksit Bharat, 빅시트 바랏. 힌디어로 선진 인도를 의미하며 인도 정부가 2047년 독립 100주년을 맞이할 때까지 인도를 경제, 군사, 사회, 모든 면에서 완전한 선진국으로 탈바꿈시키겠다는 국가적 핵심 비전과 슬로건입니다. 10-3. Lok Sabha passes Bankers' Books Evidence Bill to replace colonial-era law. India's lower house of parliament, the Lok Sabha, successfully passed a crucial bill to completely replace an outdated British-era legislation regarding banking evidence. The primary objective of this new Bankers' Books Evidence Bill is to legally include digital and virtual financial records as fully admissible evidence in courts of law. This significant modernization directly addresses the rapid technological shift and the country's overwhelming dependence on computerized banking systems. By explicitly recognizing digital ledgers, lawmakers aim to effectively streamline legal proceedings and expedite investigations involving complex financial crimes. This legislative update is widely seen as a necessary and progressive step to align India's archaic legal frameworks with contemporary digital realities. Vocabulary. Outdated. Adjective. 구시계. 시대에 뒤진. The factory still uses outdated machinery that desperately needs replacement. Legislation. Noun. 제정. 법률. 입법. The government quickly introduced new legislation to heavily tax carbon emissions. Admissible. Adjective. 법정에서 증거로 인정되는. The judge ruled that the recorded conversation was strictly not admissible in court. Dependence. Noun. 의존. 의존성. The nation is trying to significantly reduce its dangerous dependence on foreign oil. Ledger. Noun. 장부. 원장.
The careful accountant dutifully recorded every single transaction in the company ledger. Streamline. Verb. 간소화하다. 능률화하다. We need to streamline our production process to save both time and money. Expedite. Verb. 촉진하다. 신속히 처리하다. Please pay an extra fee if you want to expedite the shipping of your package. Archaic. Adjective. 구시계. 고대. The country still follows some archaic laws that belong entirely in the past. 시사용어 해설. 록사바, 록사바. 인도의 양원제 연방의회 중 하원, House of the People을 의미합니다. 국민이 직접 선출한 대표들로 구성되며 입법과 예산심의 등 국가의 핵심적인 정치 결정을 주도하는 막강한 권한을 가집니다.